I'm going to pause it. All right, so thank you everyone. It looks like a couple people are starting to still trickle in. I want to just introduce myself quickly. My name is Lauren Grenice and I am the Student and Alumni Relations Coordinator in the Liberal Arts Career Enrichment Network here at Penn State. So one of the things I do is I manage our Alumni Mentor Program. Um, and I want to welcome you all just in general to Liberal Arts Career Week. We have a host of programs specifically for liberal arts students all week. And I encourage all of you in the audience right now to take advantage of these opportunities. We have, I think, 3 different events going on tomorrow, and we also have one on Friday. So feel free to go to events.la.psu.edu and you can check out the liberal arts events calendar. But for this evening, we're going to focus on mentors. What are they and do I need one? Which is a question that I feel has taken on a new meaning with the pandemic. And with Penn State having the largest alumni network in the world, the question always comes up when I'm talking with students. How do you form a meaningful connection with an alum or even just with somebody who you want to mentor you in, whether it's a formal way or an informal way? So tonight, you're going to hear from a panel of our liberal arts alumni mentors who were all once in your shoes as student mentees in the program during their undergraduate experience. So they're back to kind of pass on some wisdom and also to talk a little bit about what it means to be a mentee and a mentor. So this webinar is going to be recorded. So I encourage every person in the audience to ask questions. Feel free to put it in the Q&A. I'll be monitoring the panel, but as questions come up, I'll ask yours to the panelists and then we can kind of go from there. So just to really quickly introduce our panelists, we have Nina Boscia, Rachel Page Mumenthaler, and then Mary Claire Schneider. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to each of you to just give a 1 to 2 minute introduction of yourselves real quick, and then we'll get started with the panel. All right, why don't we start with Nina?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Lauren, and thanks for joining today. So as Lauren said, I obviously went to Penn State, was in the liberal arts college, and I majored in communication arts and sciences, which I'm not sure how familiar anyone is with that major. It's quite small in liberal arts, but it's a blend of, I would say, writing, history, communications. It's very theory-based, so a lot of folks take it to law school or graduate school, and I chose to take it to grad school where I did a more professional route in communications at American University in DC. So after graduating, I started my career in legal marketing, which is basically doing communications and marketing for law firms and lawyers. So I've been in this field ever since graduating from Penn State and American. Right now I'm at a firm called Fenwick & West. I do a whole host of marketing communications on a pretty lean team of 6 or 7 people for the law firm, which is global. It does focus a lot on tech and life sciences and startups. So as you can imagine, very busy right now, especially given the pandemic. But it's a lot of interesting work, a lot of writing, and a lot of communications. So definitely appreciate all of the help that Penn State and Liberal Arts College gave me to prepare for that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Rachel Page, will go to you next.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining this panel tonight. So like the slide said, I graduated in 2015 with degrees in economics and international political economy. I started off my Penn State journey thinking I was going to be a lawyer, actually a human rights lawyer, and today I am a banker. So I completely changed my path during my time at Penn State. And most of that was due to the mentors that I had and the internships that I had that helped me really figure out, what I was interested in and what I wanted out of, to do as a career. So since I graduated in 2015, I've had 3 different jobs, all in Philadelphia. So I started off as an investment banking analyst with PNC in their debt capital markets group. And then I left the bank and I went to a private debt fund called LBC Credit Partners. And then I came back to the bank, and now I currently work at PNC and their technology finance group. And so basically what we do is we provide debt financing to private equity backed software companies that are, being acquired. And all of the positions that I've had, all 3 of these roles was because I found out about it through a Penn Stater or a Penn State alum or a mentor or a connection from a mentor. So I'm sure we're going to get in that discussion today, but it is so important. Yes, you do need a mentor. As the first slide asks you, you do need a mentor.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel Page. And we will definitely be getting into that. Mary Claire, I'll ask you to go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Claire Schneider. I also graduated in 2015. I double majored in econ and human development and family studies out of the HHG college. And then I minored in business and the liberal arts, which I feel like is a great secret of maximizing your coursework. But I was a mentee starting out like everybody else. And I owe a lot to my mentor. She really helped me not just to talk through things like preparing for interviews and things like that, but really helped me to carve out what I was doing. You can hear from my different majors, that's not a common combination, but it really helped me to figure out what I wanted to do. And so when I graduated, I started working at Deloitte Consulting, and I worked for state government clients in Louisiana and Kentucky for about 4 years. And in the last year and a half, I've been working as in Deloitte's internal practice. And I work on client leader development. So for our leaders in the firm, I help them with their leadership, strategy, team building, things like that. So it's been really cool. I owe a ton to Penn State, and so I'm excited to be part of this discussion.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for your introductions. So I guess I'm going to start a little bit broader, and then we'll kind of work our way down and ask you about your specific experiences. But so first, I just want you to all of you to think about the formal and informal mentors in your life. So when I say informal, I mean maybe not through a specific mentor program like the Liberal Arts Mentor Program, and formal maybe through the Liberal Arts Alumni Mentor Program, or even mentor programs that you might have had in past jobs or something like that. So think about those, and what are some of the things that your mentors have taught you, and how did you go about connecting with them? So whoever would like to unmute to start, feel free.
I can start as long as that's okay with everyone. So definitely echo what Mary Claire and Rachel Page both said about the importance of having mentors. But Lauren, I love that you touched on having an informal mentor as well as a formal mentor, just because sometimes I think it can be a challenge to seek out opportunities to find formal mentorship. And I think obviously Liberal Arts College is doing an amazing job by having this formal program available to students. And I love that people are interested in it and taking advantage of it, because it's just one of the many opportunities that Penn State allows for you to get involved in, and hopefully you take advantage of it. But on the informal side of things, I think it's really important to take the initiative with people who you are just interested in, whether it be their academic background or their career trajectory, or maybe you're just really inspired by them or admire them for some reason. Speaking from my own personal experience, one of my informal mentors was one of my professors at Penn State in communication arts and sciences, one of my majors. And that just kind of happened because I loved his teaching style. I loved the things that I was learning in his classes, but also through his classes, I became such a great, I really improved my writing skills. And that was something that I really admired him for. So one of the ways that I tried to cultivate that relationship was just obviously signing up for more of his classes. I took pretty much every higher level class that he taught, even if it didn't directly align with like my academic interests. It was still great to get his perspective on a lot of different types of work. And, I just really valued having that time with him to cultivate my writing skills. And ultimately, he ended up being one of my writing one of my recommendation letters for grad school. And we still stay in touch to this day where, we email sometimes, we catch up, and it's just having him as kind of that informal mentor to support my career path and getting into grad school is just a huge help to me. So I think having that informal mentorship and focusing on it is a really great way to just have people in your corner and find support in everything that you do.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what Nina said, and it's not who you know, it's who you get to know. And that's something that I've definitely tried to make happen for me, because not all of us, I came from a family where I'm the first generation college student. So I didn't have, this, group of connections that I could reach out to, but I did use my Penn State connections to the fullest. And I did take part and those formal mentorship programs, which if you guys are all at this panel today, obviously, hopefully you're doing that. But also informal mentors are so important. And I liked what you said, Nina, that, talk to people that you're interested in. So when I was a sophomore and a junior at Penn State, I would actually reach out to Penn Staters on LinkedIn. I would send them a message of folks that I, might be interested in their company or their career. And I'd ask them for 10 to 15 minutes to chat with them, because I wanted to learn more about their career and their career path and what they do day to day, because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in the future. And I know for me, like sometimes I will get LinkedIn messages of students that, want to connect because they want to learn more about my career. And I always am happy to speak to any student that shows initiative and that wants to learn more. Also it's a good way for you to figure out what you want to do, because you learn so much in school, you take so many classes, but you don't really know what all the opportunities there are until you either have an internship or talk to individuals. And I think that's how you really find out what you want and what you don't want in the future, is by talking to alum. And Penn Staters, we love talking to students and helping. So I think that's a good strategy.
I totally echo everything that Nina and Rachel Page said. I think just to share my own example of having formal and informal mentors, I knew that I wanted to work in human services, but I didn't feel like I had a talent for direct service, like a caseworker or a therapist or anything like that. But that was my starting point, and I really didn't know where that would take me. I knew I had a more analytical mind. So throughout all of college and with my internships, I was able to kind of pull that thread, and I spoke to people in the nonprofit sector, in government, in foundations, in consulting. And by the summer before my senior year, I found out about public sector consulting. And that was something that really matched what I was looking for, with bringing a business mindset to government human service agencies that were ready to make a change. And I was just thrilled to have found that. And if I hadn't been, spending my free time during internships, reaching out to people who were in adjacent departments and asking one person to put me in touch with another person, like what Rachel Page was saying, with taking that initiative to ask, I really wouldn't have known that existed. And I'm really grateful to all the people who took time. And people love talking about themselves, so that's something else to remember. That's why we're here, right? But yeah, great question, Lauren.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I feel like, to kind of just summarize that, I feel like the initiative that all three of you have taken to connect with both formal and informal mentors is so important to start making those connections. So kind of sitting with that and kind of going along with that theme, I'm wondering how, like, thinking about your time as a student within, whether in the mentor program or just as a student at Penn State. And how would you recommend a student overcome some of those fears of reaching out to a professional mentor for the first time? Because I know that sometimes like thinking like, oh my gosh, they might be too busy, or like, oh, they're a professional, like, do they have time for me? So could each of you speak to that a little bit?
I can hop on first if that's still okay with everyone. So yeah, I think that especially for a young college student, we've all been there. We've all kind of had the experience of not exactly knowing how to navigate something. I think, to echo what Mary Claire and Rachel Page said about, like, one, people definitely do love talking about themselves, but also I think the Penn State alumni base is just so proud of what they've done at Penn State and what others have given back to them at Penn State, that they really want to carry that forward. So try to remember that if you are kind of feeling a little fearful about reaching out to a potential mentor. You also can definitely, just as I think Rachel Page said, like, ask for 10 to 15 minutes. And if they really are too busy, maybe not everyone would get back to you. Maybe they'll just say, hey, sorry, I don't have the time. But I think you'll find that, whether it be a potential professional mentor or someone in your academic course load that you reach out to, most people are going to be more than happy to meet you for a cup of coffee or over a Zoom call if we're in a pandemic, unfortunately. But I think that you'll find that people are really excited to see someone who's matching their excitement and interest, and people are really willing to help students figure out what it is that they like. I think another thing that you can really try to hone in on is figuring out what you don't like, because that is sometimes even more important than figuring out what you do like. And talking to a whole variety of people, even if you don't think their career trajectory exactly matches what you want to do, will help you figure that out. So I say, like, take the risk, and just be as professional as possible and willing and open, and you will get some great responses.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And that's, you really learn from uncomfortable situations. And I know for me as a student, I remember reaching out to my mentor for the first time. I had a notebook with all these questions, and I remember my like palms were sweating, and I got on the call, and within like the first 5 minutes, I think she was actually like at the US Open when she was talking to me, and she like was cursing, and I was like, wow, okay, so I guess this isn't going to be super formal and professional. But I mean, obviously, each mentor has a different type of style, right? So I say, reach out, introduce yourself, show initiative and drive, which is what people want to see. And I also think communication is key, and to be as responsive as possible, because I know I've had some mentees in the past where they haven't gotten back to me over a couple of days, and then it's not top of mind. So if your mentor is taking the time and reaching out to you, make sure you try to respond within 24 hours. Is kind of like the general rule that I tell my mentees with any sort of job, your career communication. And then also talk to your mentor about the best forms of communication for them. I personally, I like it better when they text me. If they have a quick question, or if they want to hop on the phone, I'd say just text me, because sometimes I'm not always looking at my personal email, or I want them to send something to my professional email. So I think talking about in that, that first, phone call that you have with them, hey, what's the best form of communication for you? I think that's something that, could help set you up for success.
Yeah, I love what you guys said, Nina, with just saying, like, just ask. Like, the worst thing they can do is just not respond or say no. And when you think it through, like, there are worse things. And I liked what Rachel said, and Rachel Page said, and she didn't really dwell on it, but having preparation and having your list of questions ready so that going into that meeting that you've taken the time to prepare and make good use of their time, also can ease your anxiety around, is this worth their time? But I think the couple of things I'd say are, first, if you're reaching out to a mentor through this liberal arts alumni mentor program, these people have already said that they're willing to take time for you. So you can take comfort in that, and anyone that they put you in connection with will probably feel the same way. And the other thing is that you can work straight through the career enrichment network. And, you know, the people in that office, they really know who has like part of a mentor and is good to talk to, especially if you're trying to explore different career options beyond who you have for your mentor. So I think just starting in those channels to get your confidence with it will really help, because you know those people already are willing to take the time.
Great responses. Thank you all. So kind of keeping your student hat on for just one more question, at least. So I'm wondering if each of you could describe your time within the Liberal Arts Alumni Mentor Program, because that's more of a formal mentorship program, and how connecting with your mentor has helped your career path.
Yeah. So when I was a student, I was first connected with a wonderful mentor who I actually still stay in touch with, even though our career paths ended up totally diverging and being completely different, which is just a great example of why you shouldn't shy away from really any mentorship experience, because even though, so this mentor worked in museum studies for pretty much her whole career, and Penn State did a great job matching me with her, because at some point I was kind of thinking about taking that route, and I was writing my thesis on the way museums portray different pieces of history. So it made total sense. So kudos to Penn State for connecting me with someone who is in so niche of a field. But it ended up being that after we met, after we talked, she just helped me in so many other ways think through what my strong suits were and how I wanted to apply my interests and passions to a career. She was one of the first people that kind of made me think about how much I enjoy writing, and not so much maybe like the history side of things, or even considering law school for a while. And that was one of my pivotal moments in kind of deciding where my career trajectory would take me, because if I didn't think about that and think about what I might not want to do, I might have ended up in a career, not to say you can't pivot and change career paths, but I might have ended up somewhere that really wasn't the best, wouldn't have been the best fit for me. But again, that's certainly not to say that that mentorship experience wasn't worthwhile. It was the total opposite. I found her so helpful, and someone just with so much knowledge from a lifetime of having a career. And I think that any student can benefit from someone who's just been in any career for quite some time, because they just have so much to offer in terms of what they've learned through their experiences. So that was kind of my most standout mentor experience in the Penn State program as a student.
Yeah, so I, mentioned I had a couple of mentors at Penn State. One was through the College of Liberal Arts, and then one was also through Schreier. Both of those mentors, really helped me figure out what I wanted to do as a career. And actually, one of the more standout days that I have, and experiences with them is I actually got a chance to meet with each of them at their respective workplaces. So, one worked at a bank in New York City, and then the other one worked at, Comcast in Philadelphia. And I was able to, go into their office, have lunch with them, shadow them, like look at an office setting, meet some of their colleagues and be connected with their colleagues and ask questions and really get a sense of, the day-to-day, because I got to see both of them. And I just feel so lucky that I had, that chance and that opportunity to be in their office and look at, what they did. And just to what Nina said, you never know you never know what that connection might help you with, or you might help that connection with down the line. For example, my one mentor, from Schreier, he still works at Comcast, and I shadowed him at Comcast, and I realized I don't think I want to work there. I think I want to work for a bank. Well, I do work for a bank, but I actually ended up when I moved jobs to my second job, LBC Credit Partners, I actually reached, I stay in contact with him, reached out to him. He actually interned there during business school, and I was connected to LBC through him, and ended up working at LBC, which is a former employer that, that he was employed by. So you just really don't know, even if you're like, oh, I don't want to, work at that company, or you don't know how they might help you down the line. And, even just for general advice, or even just if you move to a city and you're like, hey, what organization should I get involved in? My mentor has also helped me with that too. So can't echo enough of what everyone has said here.
I had one formal mentor, I guess, through the liberal arts mentor program, and I just can't say enough good things about her. She kicked off our mentoring relationship by sending me a book called Knock 'em Dead, which I totally recommend for anyone who's looking for guidance on resume, prep for interview questions, things like that. It's not a book that you read all the way through, but it's one where you reference the chapters at different stages of the job search process. But we kicked it off that way, and during the summer, she invited me down to DC, and she planned a whole day around taking me to meet with her friend who works at a foundation, meet with her friend who worked at a YMCA, meet with a friend who worked at a different nonprofit, and then she herself worked in corporate social responsibility. And it was, above and beyond, and just sorry your mentors can't do that for you right now. But it was just amazing, and her level of investment in me is something that I'm trying to emulate, and definitely it's a lot to live up to, but I'm trying to emulate with the student that I work with now. And she just was so patient through everything. And we stayed in touch after graduation. She helped me prepare for my interview like a year and a half ago. I was on the phone with her, and she and her husband were in the car driving, similar to the story about being at the US Open, but they were answering my questions in transit and giving me feedback on my interview answers and things like that. It's something that is so special, and it's just this free service that's available, and all different mentors have different things that they can bring to the table. I know my strength right when I graduated was helping navigate how to transition from college to a full-time job. And so depending on your mentor, they'll have different strengths, but they also have this network of other mentors who they can put you in touch with. And I just think it's an amazing program. And I definitely don't know if I would have made it successfully through all those internship interviews and full-time interviews without her.
Thank you all for those thoughtful responses. I feel like one of the things that all of you mentioned is just using your mentor as a kind of a pivot point for networking, and seeing how they can help you network with others within their network. And that's kind of how you build a support network around you. So that's awesome. So I want to kind of ask you all to take the student hat off and then put the alumni hat back on. And so all of you I know are, yep, good job, Mary Claire. So all of you I know are serving right now as mentors within our alumni mentor program. And some of you have had some really great mentees, and then some of you haven't been able to connect with your mentees as well as you wanted to. So I'm wondering if you could describe just what's it been like for you as a mentor within the program so far, and what are some of the common challenges that have come up when working with your students?
Absolutely. Thanks, Lauren. So I think just to kind of kick things off, I have one mentor in the Shire program and one mentor in liberal arts. And I think overall, being able to see that there are attendees on this panel right now immediately shows the initiative that most students are willing to take in terms of cultivating and maintaining a mentee-mentor relationship. The reason I say cultivating and maintaining is because it does take work. As Rachel Page and Mary Claire said, like, their mentors seem incredible. I think that if neither of them were responsive, maybe that relationship wouldn't have turned into what it was. I think they're obviously really great students and now professionals who took the program seriously and wanted to gain as much as they could from having this free service, as Mary Claire said. So I think it's not only kind of kicking the relationship off, but it's thinking about how you want to maintain that relationship. What are some touch points that you can reach out to your mentor about? Do you want to tell them something new that you're interested in? Do you want to ask them for help? Do you want to offer something to them that they might be able to think about that would help you in turn? It's just thinking about those touch points that I think is really important, which leads me into, I think, one of the challenges that I know has at least come up for me. I'm not sure if Mary Claire and Rachel Page have experienced this, but one of the students that I was matched with, we had a really interesting kickoff call. It was easy to connect. It was easy to, take the time to meet. We had a call, discussed her interests. She told me she's interested in doing communications in New York City, which is where I am. So it was like, in my head, I was just like, wow, I can really be of service to you in terms of setting you up with other people that I know who might be of interest to her in the type of communications that she would want to work in. And I followed up with her with some resources for her to take a look at. Then after that, the communication kind of declined. I didn't really hear too much from her, and I followed up with her. But I think the perspective that some mentors can get from someone who's really not communicative is that they're just not very interested, and they're not taking the program seriously, or taking their career trajectory seriously, if we want to go that intense, which might not always be the case. Maybe they're just really busy with classes. But I just think that if you are going to participate in this program, you want to give it your all. You want to put in as much as you're able to get out as much as you're able, because unfortunately that mentee relationship just dissipated despite many attempts to try to connect with her. And Lauren was so wonderful in terms of trying to help us connect to see if she needed anything else or needed other assistance, but it just didn't really work out, and it's a shame. I think I could have at least connected her with some other folks who might have matched her interests even more, and maybe even offered her an internship. So I think that if there's anything that can be learned from this type of mentee mentor experience, it's that it does take work and effort to build. It doesn't just happen overnight. That match and that bond that you have because you went to Penn State is the connecting force, but then you as an individual need to make that connection last. And it sounds like Mary Claire and Rachel Page have really done that with their mentors, and I think have had that experience throughout the program. So it's obvious that it can happen. It does definitely take initiative on both sides.
Yeah, I would echo what Nina said. And I think, the student, you as the student, you have to be the one to take charge and take initiative, of that relationship. And I think one of the things that is helpful, I have I've had a couple mentees in the liberal arts, and I have a mentee in Schreier. And yeah, that's what I was just going to say is that initial kickoff call, we discussed, all right, how many times, do you want to connect once a month? And each month we kind of have like a new intention, like this month we're going to focus on the resume, next month we're going to focus on your LinkedIn profile, and in the meantime we'll be setting up connections with some other folks of other companies that you might be interested in. But I absolutely think that the communication is key, and I think establishing that up front and in the first that first meeting is important. I think another thing that I would say that I think is interesting, and I know Mary Claire brought this up, is it seems like, a lot of the students that I've, talked to, that they don't know everything that the college has to offer in terms of career services. Like there's this whole, the Career Enrichment Network. And obviously if you guys are on this panel, you probably already know, but the Career Enrichment Network has so many resources for you guys, including even uploading your resume and getting resume feedback, and all the internships they post. And I remember I used to have like countless meetings. I think Susan now is still there, of meeting with her and seeing, hey, I don't know what I want to do in my career, can you help me? and her connecting me with alums. So like utilize the College of Liberal Arts, that Career Enrichment Network, that website, you know, and other panels that are offered at Penn State. I mean, I think I would go to literally a panel once a week to hear alum and their stories. And I think that's important for you to take. You know, your mentor, you know, obviously can help you, but they can only do so much. And I think it's important to kind of, you know, take initiative in other aspects as well.
Yeah, I've had two mentees, and so one of them was kind of similar to what Nina was talking about, where you had a good kickoff and it just didn't come together. I think that was right pretty shortly after I graduated, and so my real strength was what Rachel Page was talking about. With I knew every resource on campus, and I knew how they could benefit me. I think one that I don't believe you mentioned, but my favorite was the interviewing at the Bank of America Center, or I don't know what they call it now, but maybe the name's changed, but the Career Services Center. For when you can go in person, they take a video of you and tell you all of the things that you're doing. And I'm like fussing with my zipper right now, and it's just ironic. But anyway, there are lots of resources on campus. And, you know, with the initial mentee I had, she pretty much had blown through that list and was looking to hear about people who had different career things, and it just wasn't a good fit. And it was okay to admit that it wasn't a good fit. And I hope she went back and asked for a different mentor, but you know, we just realized it wasn't a good fit, and both had no egos about it. We just wanted her to get the most benefit out of that program that she could. And then the one that I'm working with now, we don't have a regular communications schedule just because of where she is with, we kind of got connected in October, so we met a couple times in the holidays and all those things. But this spring, we're starting to connect a little bit more regularly. And, you know, we did a practice interview the other day because she's applying for a job and had an interview last week. And so I think what's been most effective and what's helped our relationship to remain strong is that in our first meeting, she kind of had an agenda of what her goals were and what she wanted to talk about. And so even though we didn't have a regular cadence, we knew where we were going with our, with the topics we wanted to cover. And that really helped so that we could kind of return to those and say, okay, in the new year, I want to talk about kind of what Rachel Page was saying, like our intentions for the different phases of her preparation. And she's been able to connect with some others. You know, I'm not like doing exactly what she wants to do with her life, but there's a ton that we have to talk about. I hope that answered your question, Lauren.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you all. So just from the manager of the program standpoint, I want to let all of you in the audience know that if you feel like when we match you with a mentor that it's not a good fit, like please let me know. I am more than happy to talk with you one-on-one to see like how we can how you can go about communicating with the person that we've matched you. And if we really find that it's just not a good match, then we can rematch you with somebody else who is more in line with like what you want in your goals. And the same goes for mentors too. If there's like a lack of connection or something like that, I hope all three of you know that you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to help as much as I can. But honestly, Mary Claire, like that actually is such a good segue with what you were saying into my next question, which also came in on our chat. So for those who have been paired with mentees, or even thinking about like yourself as a mentee, as a student, how often do you meet with your mentor match? And are there any favorite activities that you've done either as a student or that you've had your students do that have been really helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love what Rachel Page and Mary Claire said about one, you could either decide to get on a regular schedule or cadence, or you could just decide kind of goals and initiatives that you want to take in terms of how you want your relationship to move forward. I found that my most successful relationships with mentees have been when the mentee has outlined, you know, they come prepared and outlined what they want to talk about. I have not had the experience of getting on a regular cadence in terms of monthly or even bi-monthly, But I think that what you can do is really bring to your mentor what you want to get out of the relationship, what your goals professionally and even personally are, how they might align, and kind of outline like, hey, this is what's really important to me. Maybe I'm not the strongest interviewer. Maybe I really want to practice my interview skills. Maybe I'm great in an interview setting, but not so great in terms of a resume or in a cover letter on paper. Because I think when you give a task or an idea to your mentor to run with, they're able to help you so much more. I can just give a quick example. One of the mentees that I had, who I do still stay in touch with, she's doing great working in communications in Pittsburgh. One of the things that she was really struggling with was landing an interview. She was great in an interview setting, but she was really struggling with landing an interview kind of post-grad. She had some great internships, but upon looking at her resume, she really wasn't marketing herself in the best way that she could have been. So we took a lot of time not to get on a regular cadence, but it just ended up being regular in our communications, working on her resume. And she was so excited to like have a next meeting to like really work on those additional details. And now she is working in communications in Pittsburgh, like I said. So I think that it's not so much about how often, it's more, I would say it's definitely quality over quantity. I can speak for myself, and I'm just going to take a guess that Mary Claire and Rachel Page are also quite busy at work. It's not necessarily, doesn't have to be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, but it should be quality in terms of the time that you spend connecting with your mentor so that you feel like you're getting the most out of it. And like I said, take the opportunity to have touch points with your mentors. Let's say you did take advantage of all of the things that Penn State has to offer. Maybe you did go do a practice interview. Maybe you did sit on a panel and listen to some other alum. Tell your mentor about that. Tell him or her what you got out of that, what you learned, what you want to move forward with. And I have no doubt that your mentor will be responsive and pick up on your excitement to kind of help you with whatever your goals are.
Yeah, I agree with everything Nina said. I think the other thing that I would say in addition to that is, so yeah, one, come to that meeting prepared as to what you want your goals to be. But something that I think is interesting, that I've done and my mentors have done for me is if there's, an interesting article, or like a strengths finder quiz or something, like we've done that and talked about it, which is interesting. Like, for example, one of my mentees, he's a supply chain major. Like there's not a ton that I can really help him with, like specifically with his career. Obviously I've helped him with the resume and the LinkedIn profile and connecting him with some, companies that he's interested in. But, I'm in the process of getting my MBA, and I read this really cool article about trends in supply chain. And I sent it to him, and, we're going to chat about it. But things like that. And I've had mentees send me an article like, hey, I read this, I thought it was pretty interesting. And I think that can be, an interesting, thing that you both can learn something from each other, and also have like a little discussion that's not necessarily so focused on, one of the goals, but helps obviously everybody can, expand their knowledge. So I think that's interesting.
Those are goals with having your mentee end up in their job that they wanted in Pittsburgh, an amazing city, and being able to exchange articles and talk about that. That's awesome. I haven't done that, but I can aspire to that with my mentee. I guess my other favorite activities are, like, I think really digging into kind of where they are and what they want to do, because I know that I have had a very narrow career path and it's only been 5 years of full-time working. So I really like connecting my mentee with people who can broaden their view of what's possible, especially in liberal arts. You guys can do anything. You just have to market it the right way. Like I just recently put her in touch with my college roommate who did a lot of research in psychology on campus, and that's something that my mentee's interested in exploring, and I have no experience in research at all. So it was really great to be able to put her in touch with somebody just to help accelerate her exploration of different career paths. And then my other favorite activities are just the kind of bundle of resume, cover letter, and interview practice. you'll go through waves of needing this and not needing it. But when it comes time, those are the times when you want to increase the frequency with your mentor as long as they have capacity, and really just get into like a boot camp of prepping. Your mentor is going to be someone who is kind of an objective person who's in your court. You know, they're not going to be at that company that you're applying for, most likely. They're not going to be your parents who just want you to like land a job and be financially independent. You know, they're just this person who's like fully invested in your success and fulfillment. And so I think those times have been really exciting when we've prepped for things. And then as a mentor or as a mentee, I've been able to share the good news, and hopefully I'll get some good news from my mentee in a couple weeks with hers.
I would just add one more thing. And I know I'm not sure what all the grade levels are, in terms of participants, but when you have a mentor, the relationship does change over the time. And I mean, when I used but I leaned on my mentor in college for, figuring out career exploration and figuring out, learning how to network and resume and interviews and things like that. But now I use that same mentor to say, hey, how do I ask for a raise? How do I ask for a promotion? Like, how do I tell them, how do I explain to my manager that I think I'm valued at this? Or, how do I tell my manager that I don't think that, that there's a difficult situation at work, right? So that's, these mentors, yes, they can help you now for, career things like that, but they can also help you down the road for when you're in a sticky situation at work, or, when you are looking for that promotion or raise or something like that.
That's a great point. I could say my mentor kind of kicked my butt a little bit a few years after college, because she was like, you're very interested in service, but I don't see you involved in volunteering and things. And that was really important to you. What's that about? I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. And she, she knows me, and she knows, what my goals were in college and how I drifted away from those and let work take over. And so it's amazing, and I really appreciate it. And thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up, Rachel Page. If I could just quickly add on to what she said, I think your goal should be to allow that relationship with your mentor to evolve. You don't want to get stuck in just this like kind of back and forth about your resume or your cover letter or interviewing skills. I think that's kind of the baseline of where your relationship can begin and where it can take you. But one of the cool things that I think having these activities, like Rachel Page was saying, like sending articles back and forth and learning from each other, what that does to supplement your relationship is take you in your mentor's mind out of just like a student, just the perspective as a student, but also as a person. Like if they would be in a position to introduce you to someone else, or maybe even it's their company or a company that they're connected to for a potential internship or a job, if they can speak about you as a person and not just like a resume that they helped you write out, that's going to go so much further in terms of your career than your skill set. Obviously it's really important to do well in college and your classes and your extracurriculars, but I think that if you can show your interest and the type of person you are to people who are invested in your success, that's going to drive your success all that much further. And I think allowing that relationship to evolve to the point where you can lean on them for different things and show them different things as you evolve, that's going to be the best way to do that.
Thank you all for those really thoughtful answers. I think that all of you are right. The purpose of like the liberal arts alumni mentor program, so that formal mentorship, is that it is a touch point. So like we do the introductions, and we provide for all of those in the audience, like you'll get a list of activities and a list of icebreaker questions, and we have a full handbook that you can look through to better connect with your mentor, like for the first couple meetings. And maybe you set up some standard meetings with a specific cadence at the beginning, but then it evolves. So know that like those resources are here if you do decide to join the program, or even like if you're thinking about informal mentorship too, because it's not just about the alumni mentor program that that I manage. So I think that all three of you really like touched on that, and I appreciate that insight. So so I know we have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you all more of a reflective question, just as alumni. And so if you could speak to your undergraduate self 6 years ago, I mean, you all are working women in the workplace right now, graduated 2015. What would you say to yourself, or is there anything that you would do differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would definitely tell myself to be a little bit less rigid and a little more flexible in terms of what I anticipated for myself and my career. When I was a freshman going into college, I was like 100% sure that I was going to become a lawyer. And that obviously is not the route that I've ended up in. And I've also, I thank God every day that I did not do that. Not to say it is not for some people. But I think that if I, expanded a little bit earlier, my thought process on what I expected my career trajectory to look like and said yes to more things, that might have opened and expanded my knowledge base about different types of careers a little earlier. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe I would have ended up in the same career I'm in now, or maybe I would have ended up somewhere totally different. But I just think it's important, especially if you are on the earlier side of your college career, to be open to new experiences. Don't let your major or really, any other constraints, like don't allow that to prevent you from exploring new options. And even if you are later in college, I was a junior in college when I decided to apply to grad school and not law school. It's definitely not too late to pursue something new that you think would interest you. And I think definitely lean on the people who are there to support you, whether they be informal or formal mentors, your parents, people that you have learned from during your time in college or your internships. I think it's just important to not condense yourself into just one area and say that you can't ever move out of that, because it's just definitely not the case. As Mary Claire said, in liberal arts, you can find yourself doing any sort of career. So don't close yourself off to anything out of fear or a challenge that you might not make it. I think that, you, with support and the right initiative, you can really take on any new challenge that you might be interested in.
I love quotes, so I have 2 quotes here that I've lived by. The first is, if you're walking down the right path and you're willing to keep walking, eventually you'll make progress. And this is something I had hanging up actually in my dorm room in college. But basically, there comes a time where you're going to feel like you hit a roadblock, or you don't know what you want to do, or you can't get the internship, or you can't get the interview. But just keep trying, keep connecting with alum, keep exploring careers, attend those panels, talk to your professors, take a class that you think might be interesting, talk to other students, just keep working hard. And eventually you will make progress. And then the other thing is, trust the process. Just what Nina said, I thought going into Penn State I was going to be a human rights lawyer. Then I was like, I'm good, and I thought that was my career forever. And then I started off my career as doing investment banking, and I'm like, I'm going to be an investment banker for the rest of my life. And then I got there and I'm like, oh my God, I don't like this. So you're going to have to change and adjust and be flexible and be resilient and change your plan. And that's okay. I think even right now, 6 years out of school, I like where I'm at in my career, but I'm not sure what I want to do 5 years from now. And I think, that's okay. And that's why you talk to people, and that's why you have different experiences and things like that. And the only other thing I would say is, given this environment, with COVID, you're going to have to be more intentional with your communication, and with your, I guess, attacking your goals and your plan. So, if that means that you might have to be a little bit more uncomfortable by sending the email to reach out, that's something that unfortunately you're going to have to do, because you might not be able to have those in-person interactions. So I would just say, keep being intentional in your goals and in your, the steps to achieve those goals.
Nina and Rachel Page really helped me to bring my answer together by to their answers. They were so good. I think it's something my dad told me while I was in school, which really helped drive a lot of kind of how I operated, at least in the second half of my time at Penn State. I started out as an anthropology major, and I thought I was going to do international development work, but then I remembered that I am not interested in learning other languages. I don't have a talent for it, and it reflected in my grades. And so I think he said, make choices that expand your opportunities and don't limit them. And that was really helpful to hear. Like your 4 years at Penn State are such a gift, and there's so many opportunities to like maximize that time. And I'm not someone who's good at like chilling and relaxing, and so that, you know, had its own consequences. But I think, you know, I landed in a spot after graduation, which was my goal, that I'm comfortable with, that kicked my butt in a good way and like really pushed me to be a more skilled professional. And I don't think I'm in my ideal job, but I am surrounded by people who I really admire and work hard with. And I don't know what my perfect job is. And I was hoping that after 4 years at Penn State, I'd know what my perfect job was and land there. And like, I just want to be surrounded by people who inspire me and make me better and things like that. And through the choices I made at Penn State and by talking to all these different people through the liberal arts college, can't say enough good things about them. It's been really good. So really, I mean, you guys are welcome to reach out to any of us if you want to just hear more about what we do. I know we've talked a lot about ourselves, but you know, we love hearing from Penn State students, and anything we can do to help open your opportunities. We appreciate your time tonight. We hope it's been helpful. That was a lot of different thoughts, but hopefully that all came together.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rachel Page.
I was just going to echo what Mary Claire said is, we're all here to be a resource, and, reach out on LinkedIn or, or anything like that. I know, I'd be, and I'm sure everyone else would be, willing to chat and help in any way that we can.
Yes, I will definitely also echo that sentiment. You guys are more than welcome to reach out. And I really love what Mary Claire said about, not knowing, like when you leave Penn State, don't be afraid if your first job is not your dream job. I will say that's most likely going to be the case. I hope I'm not bursting anyone's bubble, but it takes time to not only figure out about like what your own interests are, but also to get to the point in your career that something is your dream job. We all have to kind of earn our stripes a little bit and get to the point that that we want to be at. And I mean, I can assume I'm speaking for all three of us. Like, we're only 5-6 years out of school. I don't think any of us are in our like top dream job. It's a little humbling when you think like you're doing so great at Penn State, and you are, but like when you enter the job world, that's just maybe not going to be what occurs right out of the gate. But don't get discouraged. Keep using these awesome resources like the liberal arts alumni mentor program and just the great resources that Penn State provides you, and you will get to where you want to be. So definitely don't shy away from exposing yourself to all those opportunities.
Yeah, thank you all for those thoughtful responses all evening. Honestly, I think to kind of summarize what you're all saying, and it's something that I know I felt too, is that human beings, like we're not stagnant. We're constantly changing, and so in order for you to change with resilience, like surrounding yourself with people who are inspiring or people who are really in your corner and in your support network can be really helpful in helping you achieve your goals. So with that, I know we're just about at the end of our time, but I'm going to share my screen again real quick. We've talked a lot about the formal mentorship program tonight within the Liberal Arts Alumni Mentor Program, right? So I've listed here some of the qualifications. It's pretty much like, as long as you're a liberal arts student, you're in. Even some of like, you can't be in your second semester, or you have to be in your second semester or higher, can't be in your last semester. That I'm very willing to be flexible with. You just have to reach out to me directly. we are admitting students to the program on a rolling basis, so you can apply anytime during the year, and get in touch with, again, either myself, or look at our website for more information, fill out the application. Within the application, it's going to ask you a couple of questions. So like, why do you want to mentor? What do you want to learn from this experience? To kind of help you narrow down like what you find your purpose is and why you want to connect with a mentor, and build your support network through this program. There's an orientation on there as well. And then, like I said, we have a huge student handbook with a lot of activities and suggestions that you can take while building your relationship with your mentor. And it typically takes about 2 to 4 weeks to get matched once you apply. And then within matching, the very first thing that I look at, and that my colleague Ellen looks at when we do our matching process, is we look at your career field. We look at your career field, then we look at your major, geography, extracurriculars. We also look at your background stories too. So please put in effort. The more that we get to know you, the better that your match is going to be, and the better that we can match you with somebody who is within your field of interest, but also who might like match your personality and what you like and what you don't like. So you have more in common there. As well as like your level of development. So if you're sitting here on this panel, or if you watch it later because this is being recorded, if you don't know what you want to do, that is okay. You are more than welcome to apply to the program if you're not exactly sure about where your career path is going to go. So I've put my my contact information up here, my email address, phone number. It's through the Career Enrichment Network. You can Google Career Enrichment Network, our site will come up, and that's a way for you to get in contact with me as well. We had a couple of really great questions that came in tonight. But because I want to be respectful of everyone's time, I'll ask that anybody who, if you didn't get to ask a question, please email me, and I'll be able to forward it to our panelists. But overall, I really just want to thank the three of you, Mary Claire, Nina, and Rachel Page, for your time tonight. I so appreciate your experiences, your like everything that you're bringing to the table, and being able to give back to Penn State. And because like all of you said, Penn Staters like to help Penn Staters. So hopefully everybody in the audience got that tonight. But I just want to thank you all for your time tonight. So.
And thank you so much, Lauren, for setting this up and being just such an awesome program coordinator and manager. None of this would happen if you did not do it all. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, I appreciate it.
And thanks everyone for attending.
Yep. All right. Well, we will wish you all a good evening and have a great night. And hopefully you all reach out to me soon. But thank you all to our panelists, and thanks to everybody who attended tonight. So I'll talk to you soon.